Welcome to Point of View. I'm Pastor Josh Barnes. This is the show where we're unashamed to look at political, social, cultural, and even theological issues from a biblical worldview. We do that because Jesus died on the cross and rose from the dead, and that proves that the Bible's true. So we can't be right about issues if we disagree with the Bible then. Today I have a great interview for you. This is our spotlight episode of Point of View, and I'm joined again here in just a moment. I will be joined in just a moment by Tim Mahoney, who is the filmmaker behind Thinking Man Films and the Patterns of Evidence series, the Exodus. He's done videos on the evidence behind the Exodus that many scholars try to say isn't true, that there's no evidence for the Exodus of the people of Israel from Egypt. He's done films on the seven churches of Revelation, the times of fire, on the crossing of the Red Sea, going back to the Exodus series, and now he's actually done a film on the series on the question, where is Mount Sinai? And he's doing two of these because he's going in depth into each mountain that's claimed as, that people say this is Mount Sinai, and he's analyzing. Well, what should we find? Are these fitting the biblical description? And of course, the big controversy today, if you're unfamiliar with it, is there's two mountains. The traditional one in the Sinai Peninsula that's called the Sinai Peninsula because that's where everyone used to think that Mount Sinai is, or the one in Arabia called Jabal al-Laz. He's dealing with these questions, but he's also dealing with other mountains that other people claim, and he's trying to really carefully just work through all the evidence and present it to us. This is really cool. And you don't need to be a nerd to think this is cool. You just need to love the Bible and know that it's really neat to find evidence for all the things the Bible tells us. It's all true. And I think you're going to love this. So without further ado, here I'm going to go ahead and show you the trailer. We got a trailer, a little teaser for the film. The film is actually going to be in theaters in 2 weeks for a special two-night event, and you're going to want to be there. Here is the tease. Check this out.
For the last 50 years, Exodus explorers have been searching for the true location of Mount Sinai. The Bible tells us that Moses and the Israelites were led there by a pillar of fire and cloud. I'm Timothy Mahoney, an investigative filmmaker. And I'm looking for a pattern of evidence matching one of the most important events recorded in the Bible. The mountainous location where God came down to meet Moses and the Israelites. Exodus explorers are now claiming they found physical evidence for this biblical event. But there is a controversy because this evidence is not where tradition places the mountain. How will we know which is the true location? It was recorded that after the Israelites crossed the sea, they camped numerous times on their way to Mount Sinai. Now, for the first time, Patterns of Evidence will investigate the journey of Moses and the Israelites. What route did they take, and what evidence still remains today? Join me on this amazing and inspiring investigation. Patterns of Evidence, Journey to Mount Sinai.
Well, if you're not interested after seeing that trailer, I'm not sure what we could do to make you interested about anything. I mean, I think that's a fascinating topic. Where is the real Mount Sinai? I've done some, amateur research from my computer desk about this myself, but to bring the real expert in, I'm joined now by Tim Mahoney, who has now, I think this is the third time you've joined us here on Point of View. It's so good to have you. I love the work and the research that you're putting out. And thanks for joining us on Point of View today.
Well, thank you for having me, Joshua. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
you got a biblical name that I'm going to be looking at, Joshua, in the future. That's my hope.
That's good. You just need to walk through all of the historical books of the Old Testament with this series. I mean, we're loving it. We're eating it up. I'm actually buying each video in the series to put in our church office, our church library here at the church, so people can see them. I think people need to see these. I think these are helpful. What struck me, and I had the privilege of seeing a screener of this, which, so I got like the inside scoop, what struck me about these films is that it seems to me that you genuinely want to present the facts. You're not in it to try to push a narrative to say, oh, here's where the Mount Sinai is, or this is that. You're actually weighing out facts, presenting counterfacts to the things that you present, and it seems like you're interested in both sides of the argument here.
Yeah, and sometimes there's more than two. There's many sides to an argument, and that's the reason why what's exciting about this new film, Journey to Mount Sinai, is we've created a scorecard, patterns of evidence, Mount Sinai scorecard. I don't know if you guys can see. Well, let me come over here this way.
We'll put you up on the full screen there so everyone can see it.
Yeah, put you up on the full screen there, but that's the scorecard. And on the back of it, we've got this document, if you can see it. I'm trying to get over there. It's basically a score sheet. As we go through these mountains, we're going to be scoring the different mountains. And you can probably put those PDFs up and people can look at them. But why is that important? There are, as you said, different points of view. And we found out that there's probably, you could probably suggest maybe 24 different Mount Sinai locations that have been proposed by a variety of people. And this film, I started out looking at one in Saudi Arabia 20 years ago when I heard about this place called Jebel Alaz, which I found fascinating. And depending upon what sea you cross will put you where will more clearly define the mountains you're probably going to look at. And if people cross a reedy sea, near Egypt, they're going to probably drift into the Sinai Peninsula. And that's what we do. We start looking at those early mountains that were suggested, like the traditional Mount Sinai and some others, because this is where tradition has placed them. But there are, in this new film series, it's 2 films, by the way, I just want people to know, a lot of times there's so much content, listening to these different points of view, that we have to basically break it into 2 films. And the first film, we're going to be looking at Journey to Mount Sinai, to the traditional mountain. What's the pattern of evidence that you would find for that against the biblical criteria? And this scorecard actually has biblical criteria in it. If I could see it, you could see it, how it's going to go. And we've broken it into the journey to the mountain with subsets of campsites, wildernesses, and travel time. Where is the land of Midian? Because Moses is to have fled to the land of Midian. And then from there, we're going to be looking at the backside of the wilderness, because when Moses was in the land of Midian, it says that he took the flock of sheep and went to the backside of the wilderness. So where is that? The other thing would be attributes. The Bible gives certain clues about the attributes. In other words, the Israelites had to camp in front of it, so there has to be just not like a narrow space, but there has to be a larger plain for them to be there. How big of a plain is there that there could be accommodating? Because some people, if you look at the biblical numbers, it could be 2 to 3 million people that were in this Exodus. Others make it 5,000 people to 30,000. Another attribute would be, is there any water, or how would they have had water? Because the Bible says that there was a stream that the Israelites were able to wash their clothes there. So there's plenty of water. The question is there a cave there? Because the Bible, it also says that Elijah went to this cave later on. And then there's artifacts. Are there any inscriptions there that relate to this? There's golden calf altar at the mountain, and of course it was ground up. But is there any type of golden calf type worship? Because some people are suggesting there might have been at these different mountains.
So you actually have. So just to recap, because anyone's missing this, basically, you've created a scorecard that as you're going through the facts and you're just laying out, okay, this is what this mountain has, this is what this mountain has, the viewer can actually score it themselves and say, yeah, well, it looks like this one fits well in this category, but maybe not over in this category, and so that they can weigh out the facts themselves. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yep. So the scorecard, to get the light shining the right way, but the scorecard can enable you. I got to figure out where I am here. Can enable you to keep track of all the different evidences. That's the value of the scorecard. which is a fun, interactive way. We're going to be having a test sneak peek showing tonight with an audience. But when we've talked to different scholars, they've said, no one's ever done anything like this. To show a movie, have this interactive approach. And that's the reason why I think it's a whole other level of kind of getting into the film.
Yeah, because I think most times when you have a documentary like this, as much as they call it a documentary, it usually has an agenda. It wants to convince you of a certain conclusion, where it feels to me as if what you're presenting is just facts. The only conclusion you want people to come to, and just don't let me put words in your mouth, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the conclusion you want people to come to is that there is evidence that this actually happened, right? I mean, that's kind of the point. Where it happened, you want people to think through themselves.
Right. And this first film, for example, if you look at our company that makes the films is called Thinking Man Films. And the whole idea behind this is if we think about how do we love God, we love him with our heart, our soul, and our mind. And we need to be able to think through, the possibilities. If this event happened, it had to have happened somewhere. So what clues do we have as to where it happened? And then let's think about what we should see in the archaeology or in the geography that would connect that mountain with the scriptures. And that's the fun part about this investigation. But what I've done is I've given you a little bit of a head start by creating the scorecard. The scorecard helps you to get there sooner, to get there quicker. As far as holding all this information, Josh, have you ever gone to the grocery store and you're only going to go there for like one or two things? And it happens to me every time. I walking through the aisles, I go, oh, look at that. I think we need ketchup. Or, then I go, I want my salty thing. I want to go get some chips. And then there's dark chocolate, right? So I come back with my arms full. Well, when you're watching the kinds of movies that I make, they're fairly rich. I'll call it, they're rich and they're deep. And people love them for that reason. But I'm giving you lots of different points of view. So if you're going to have these different points of view, then what you're going to want to do is find a way to put them in a cart so that you can be free then to listen. Otherwise, you might confuse the different points. At the end of this film, I'm going to actually score the mountains myself, and I'm going to give you my scorecard that I think where it seems to lean. And I think that's the honest approach. The question is, when people said there was no evidence for the Bible, I basically early on in making these films had a crisis of faith. And then I went back and said, well, if you were to look for evidence, what would you look for? And then that's where this whole idea of a pattern came about. And that's the scientific approach. You have to look for that pattern. And so that's what we've been doing. We've been searching for the pattern of evidence throughout the scriptures. And what we're seeing is that there's a pattern there. Mm-hmm. In many cases, it's earlier than when some scholars would place it, but it matches the Bible.
Yeah.
Because the Bible didn't change its dates.
Yeah, I'll tell you, your film on the Exodus really presented information I'd never been familiar with before. I thought I had studied all this stuff, but you really brought out some stuff and discovered things and was able to share it with people, including myself, that I didn't know. And for that reason, I think I can probably voice the opinion of many viewers, where on one hand, I think all of us viewers think, man, we wish it could all be in one video. We could do all the mountains and do it all at once and not have to wait for the other. But at the same time, it would be a forever long video, because you are going to actually go in detail and not skip stuff. You're going to actually do a serious job on each mountain and say, okay, what's the evidence behind this? And for that, I just have to say thank you. Just for sake of time, though, I wanted to ask you a couple questions. There was, I think there's three different mountains, or two or three different mountains that you deal with in this film specifically. You're going to deal with the traditional site, right? The place in the Sinai Peninsula, that was the Queen Constantine's mother chose it, all that kind of stuff. Can you kind of give us sort of a summary of some of the things that impressed you about each mountain that you visited, the keynotes maybe?
Well, I think that if we look at the traditional mountain, what it has going for it is tradition. It also has a number of names, and the argument will be that the names for the route are matching the biblical journey, and so that's what the traditional mountain has. Many people have thought that this is the location for a long time. Both Muslim and Catholic Christians as well. I mean, there's a monastery there. I mean, it's been considered for a long time. The tradition of Christianity is that's where Mount Sinai is. But the challenge has been is that when you take a little bit closer, you have to go back and start saying, well, what would you find? What needs to be at that mountain for it to be true? And then as more modern criticism came against the Bible, that's when they would look at certain locations and started to criticize that well, there's no evidence for the Israelites in the Sinai Peninsula, for one thing. And the question then is well, what evidence would you look for? Which is the big, like they didn't bring pots along. A lot of archaeology is based on pottery, the foods and things that they, they ate out of dishes and had bowls and all that. Those potteries basically are sort of designed around certain looks and time periods, so they can see when a pot was created. They know that that's a particular kind of pottery. And for example, so the Sinai Peninsula, they were on the run. They were leaving from Egypt. They were trying to get somewhere. So the question is did they land in the Sinai Peninsula, or did they go through it to someplace else? And that's what this investigation is asking. And go ahead.
Yeah, well, things just keep popping in my mind as you're talking. I suppose probably someone's conclusion about where Mount Sinai is, whether it's in the Sinai Peninsula or not, probably has a lot to do with where they conclude the Red Sea crossing took place. Is that fair? I know you've done films on that as well.
Yes. And so if you basically are on one of the Gulfs, or one of the arms of the Red Sea, the Suez or the Gulf of Aqaba, if they actually miraculously crossed those large bodies of water, it's either going to put you in the Sinai Peninsula if it's the Suez, or it's going to put you in Saudi Arabia, the ancient land of Midian. And so there's a lot of people that are suggesting, when they look at the biblical context, geographically the Bible points to the crossing of the Gulf of Aqaba when it uses the word Yam Suf in a geographical sense. Other people are going to tell you that this word Yam Suf, the sea of it's not really a Red Sea. It's what is it? The sea of what? And they're basically, this word Suf doesn't mean red, or does it mean reed? I mean, I should say, we know it doesn't mean red. Does it mean reeds, or does it mean the boundary or edge of? And so that then is another major clue. If they crossed one of the Gulfs, like the Gulf of Aqaba, then that puts them in the Saudi Arabia, which is modern day Saudi Arabia, or in ancient times Midian.
Does any of this boil down to whether one of the scholars that you interview, does some of their conclusions boil down to whether or not they're going to accept the miraculous or not? I mean, if they don't accept the miraculous, they're probably going to put the crossing at a place where they could cross without a miracle, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, that would be going down to the wind set down idea. In other words, that naturalistic environment, God was in the wind, but there's one theory, which I'll call it the Egyptian hypothesis, or the Egyptian viewpoint and the Hebrew viewpoint. Egyptian meaning that it's near Egypt, the events happen near Egypt, the mountain is closer to Egypt, and Hebrew is that it's a larger body of water, and it's probably going to be the Gulf of Aqaba, and that the Exodus happened further away, and that it's miraculous. In other words, and then there's a hybrid of those two. So what happens is that some people are trying to see the Exodus events as a historical event, but not a supernatural event. And that the numbers weren't as big as the Bible alludes to when it comes to how many, there's 600,000 men. They're like, no, that's more like group, 600 600 groups. Elof is the word, I think it was. Elof. And anyway, so what ends up happening is that when we make these films, you have to create, and when you're talking to scholars, they use words that most people don't know. So you have to define those words so that people understand what's going on. But the route of the Exodus coming, from the sea crossing either lands you, well, if you're by a sea near the Egypt, you could go anywhere. But if you cross the Gulf of Aqaba, then you're definitely in what is modern day Saudi Arabia. And there are people that I've tagged, given them the name Exodus Explorers. And those are sort of average people that have been looking at this and studying it for a long time, and they're adamant. They're looking for the real location of Mount Sinai, and a lot of them are pointing towards mountains like Jabal Allahs.
Wow, this is so fascinating to me. I thoroughly enjoyed being able to see the film. I can't wait to purchase it, but I don't have to wait till I can purchase it, right? I can actually go see this in the theaters 2 weeks from now. Is that right?
That's right. And, I encourage people to vote for the Bible. If I was to leave anything, it's October 17th or 18th. It's a Fathom event, over 800 theaters. And this is an opportunity because all the theater people, when they look at bringing in movies, they know, hey, this is a biblical film. Let's see how it does. And this is our fifth, Patterns of Evidence film. We've had other films, and we need the vote for the Bible to basically let the people know. I appreciate it if you could support us in the theater and then come back and buy copies to share with your family and friends if you like these films. And these films are testifying and examining big, important issues, and there's a wonderful panel discussion that we're going to be having after the film about what does this mean. It's not too long, but it's very, very powerful. What does this mean? We have Pastor Mark Henry is going to be on there, a local pastor who has a large ministry. Tom Berkowitz, who was the teacher at the CBS Community Bible Study for many years. He's Messianic believer. And then we've got Jeff Cavins, who is a Catholic theologian. And those three men are going to be talking about what does this mean? What do we take away from this? And for me, I think it's the Israelites were complaining the whole way. And there's a part of this story is, why were they complaining after they saw all these miracles? Why couldn't they just trust God that he was going to take care of them? And I think it's a hard lesson for all of us to learn. We can see God working in our lives, but do we trust him for the future?
Yeah, this is an absolutely beautiful film. The scenery, the filmography, I think is just done very well. You'll want to see this in the theaters, and then you'll want to be able to purchase a copy of it because you're going to want to watch it again because there's so much information in there. You won't get it all the first time. I can't wait, and you're right. It's a perfect opportunity for us as Christians to show the movie industry that we're willing to spend money if they will give us quality biblical movies in the theaters. And this is a wonderful thing. So 17th and 18th, they can find what theaters this event will be in based on going to the website, right? www.patternsofevidence.com.
That's right. Yeah, but they can see the trailer. They can download their scorecard and be ready. And they should invite their Sunday school class or come as a group. This is a great time to be able to support and learn an awful lot and be challenged. I think afterwards the conversation will be amazing. Go out for coffee afterwards or go to dinner before and be ready for this great investigation about where is Mount Sinai, the journey to Mount Sinai.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it with my church as well. Thank you so much, Tim Mahoney. Thanks for joining us. We'll have to have you back on when the next film comes out.
Well, thank you for having me again.
So, Tim Mahoney, I want to even call him my friend now because we've had him on 3 times. I've met him so many times. I met him at the NRB conference a couple of years ago. I had him on to talk about Times of Fire, the film after that. And then, of course, now this is the 3rd time he'll be on Point of View. And look, I'm really thrilled at what he's doing, the attitude he's doing it in. He has a great mind. And these are well put together films. I mean, these are visually appealing and entertaining. They're visually captivating. You're able to break down complex ideas and understand them the way that they're put up visually on the screen. If you bring a church group to this film, I'm guaranteeing you that they're gonna all learn something. They're gonna be, wow, this is so cool. They're gonna want to go home and read their Bibles and read the stories of the Exodus and say, wow, this is really neat. And so I think this is just a wonderful thing. Go check it out. Support this film. Vote with your purchase of these tickets. You can vote for biblical content in theaters. Theaters need to see this, that there is a market for biblical content, and filmmakers like Tim Mahoney need to see this. We need this type of content out there, and thank the Lord that He's doing this and that He's out there. People need the Bible in this day and age. What people need is the Scriptures. Now, before I go, I wanted to also throw something else at you. Here's a story. It is the Biden administration makes reversal on student loan forgiveness program, scales back eligibility. Here's another story. Here's another story. Texas church introduces children to drag a bingo in a transparent closet. How about this one? Trump wins another ruling in rape accuser Carol's defamation lawsuit. You don't see these headlines in the mainstream news. That's because I'm reading these headlines from the Epoch Times. This is an absolutely phenomenal news outlet that's actually getting real stories, doing real research, and getting stuff that you're not going to find on Fox News, you're not going to find on CNN for sure, or any of the mainstream news. You'll find it on Epoch Times, real researched information that's out there. And you can actually, when you go to the Epoch Times, ireadepoch.com, you can use the promo code RAM and get your first month for only $1 and cancel it after that if you don't like it, right? But I guarantee you're not going to want to cancel this because the information that you're going to find there is really good. You're going to be well informed. And also, in the process, you'll also have this little side effect of supporting shows like Point of View on Right America Media Network. We need your help to keep this show and other shows like this on the air, as well as Epoch Times needs your help, showing that you appreciate the type of research they do. So go support conservative outlets like the Epoch Times. Use the promo code RAM and help keep shows like Point of View on the air. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time right here on Point of View.